When you think of samurai, you probably picture Tom Cruise, gripping a katana, shouting about honor, and charging headfirst into a hail of machine gun fire. Hollywood has taught us that using a gun is dishonorable. The story goes that a true samurai would rather die than touch a cowardly Western weapon. But they couldn't be more wrong. If you traveled back to Japan in 1550, you'd see samurai armed to the teeth with matchlocks, raining lead down on their enemies. They didn't feel ashamed. They thought these things were absolute game changers. But they couldn't be more wrong. If you traveled back to Japan in 1550, you'd see samurai armed to the teeth with matchlocks, raining lead down on their enemies. They didn't feel ashamed. They thought these things were absolute game changers. In 1543, the Portuguese arrived at Tanegashima, bringing with them the Teppo. Japanese daimyos took one look at the stat panel and lost their minds. Training an archer takes 10 years, but training a musketeer? Just 2 weeks. While arrows struggled against heavy armor, bullets dealt true damage, ignoring defense entirely. It wasn't about honor, it was about economics. Consequently, Japan soon possessed one of the largest fleets of firearms in the entire world. Oda Nobunaga was the ultimate meta-chaser of his time. At the Battle of Nagashino, he optimized the reload mechanic using his famous 3-stage firing tactic. With 3,000 matchlocks, he turned the invincible Takeda cavalry into Swiss cheese. This wasn't a fair fight, it was a spawn kill. It was like players from Mountain Blade accidentally joining a CSGO server. This battle proved one thing: in the face of overwhelming firepower, individual skill is completely meaningless. The big question: if guns were so powerful, why did they disappear? Well, Tokugawa Ieyasu unified Japan and decided to nerf the entire meta. He realized guns were too dangerous. A random peasant with a matchlock could take down a high-level samurai. To maintain social stability, the shogunate confiscated firearms and began aggressively promoting Bushido. They rebranded the katana as the soul of the samurai. In reality, with the wars over, swords became nothing more than ID cards and fashion accessories. Samurai transitioned from warriors to bureaucrats, and every bureaucrat needs a fancy accessory. In the movie Last Samurai, the character based on Saigo Takamori leads a tragic sword charge against Gatling guns. But let's look at the real history. In reality, Saigo Takamori wore a French military uniform and commanded a sophisticated artillery unit. They didn't choose swords because they hated guns. They drew their blades only because they ran out of ammunition. If you had handed Saigo Takamori a Gatling gun, he would have used it without a second thought. He wasn't an idiot. Samurai weren't romantic poets. They were professional killers. Whether it was a sword, a gun, or even poison, if it killed the enemy, it was a good weapon. The Bushido we see today is largely a romanticized myth cooked up by scholars during peaceful times. So, the next time you see a samurai pull out a gun in a video game, don't be shocked. That's actually the most hardcore historical accuracy you'll ever get.